Deep in the heart of 1920s Bavaria, nestled far from the bustling cities, lay a small, isolated farmstead. This place was known to the locals as Hinterkaifeck. The farm was home to the Gruber family, a household marked by secrets and local gossip. Andreas Gruber, the patriarch, was a stern and often abrasive man of 63. His wife, Cecilia, aged 72, was known to be devoutly religious and frail. Living with them was their widowed daughter, Victoria Gabriel, a 35-year-old woman whose life was shadowed by tragedy and rumor. Victoria's husband, Karl Gabriel, had been reported killed in the trenches of World War I. Her 7-year-old daughter, also named Cecilia, was a bright child, known in the nearby village school. The youngest member of the household was 2-year-old Joseph, whose parentage was a source of scandalous whispers. It was widely believed that Joseph was the product of an incestuous relationship between Victoria and her own father, Andreas. The family was, by all accounts, reclusive and not well liked, their isolation both a choice and a consequence. In the final days of March 1922, a palpable sense of unease began to settle over Hinterkaifeck. The previous maid had left her position 6 months prior, convinced the farm was haunted. She spoke of hearing footsteps and disembodied voices coming from the attic. Andreas Gruber, a man not given to flights of fancy, started reporting strange occurrences himself. He confided in a neighbor about a set of footprints he had discovered in the fresh snow. The tracks led from the dense forest at the edge of his property directly to the farmhouse. Curiously, there were no corresponding tracks leading away from the farm. He also complained of hearing footsteps echoing from the attic, just as the former maid had. A thorough search of the attic revealed nothing and no one. Then, a strange newspaper from Munich appeared on the property, one that Andreas had not purchased. Shortly after, one of the main house keys vanished without a trace. Despite these unnerving events, Andreas refused to seek help from the police. The family's isolation seemed to deepen with each passing strange event. On the last day of March, a Friday, the new maid, Maria Baumgartner, arrived at the farm. Her arrival was accompanied by her sister, who left the farm in the late afternoon. This would be one of the last times anyone saw a member of the Hinterkaifeck household alive. Maria Baumgartner had only a few hours to live. The exact sequence of events that night remains a subject of intense speculation. Investigators believe the killer or killers used a methodical and brutal approach. It is thought that the family members were lured, one by one, into the barn. Perhaps they were drawn out by a noise from the livestock, or a deliberate sound made by the perpetrator. Andreas Gruber was likely the first to be dispatched. His wife, Cecilia, probably followed, looking for her husband. Then came Victoria, and finally her young daughter, Cecilia. Each was met with overwhelming force, struck down with a mattock. The killer then moved from the barn to the main house. Inside, 2 innocents remained completely unaware of the horror outside. 2-year-old Joseph was murdered as he slept in his cot in his mother's bedroom. The new maid, Maria Baumgartner, was killed in her own bedchamber. After the slaughter, an even stranger chapter of the mystery began. The killer, or killers, did not flee immediately. Evidence showed that someone remained at Hinterkaifeck for several days. The entire herd of cattle was fed and cared for. Food was eaten from the kitchen pantry. Neighbors reported seeing smoke rising from the chimney all weekend. The family dog was found tied up outside the barn. For 4 days, The farm appeared occupied to any casual observer. The alarm was finally raised when young Cecilia failed to appear at school. The family had also been conspicuously absent from Sunday church services. The postman noted that the mail he had delivered on Saturday was still untouched on Monday. On April 4th, a search party of local men decided to investigate. The leader of the group was Lorenz Schlittenbauer, a neighbor with a complicated history with the Grubers. Finding the house doors locked, the men gained access to the property through the barn. There, they made a gruesome discovery. The bodies of Andreas, his wife, his daughter Victoria, and his granddaughter Cecilia were found in the barn. They had been stacked on top of one another and partially covered with hay. A door had been placed over the body of the elder Cecilia. Young Cecilia's body showed she had torn out her own hair in her final moments. The search party then entered the main house. They found the body of the maid, Maria, in her room. In Victoria's bedroom, they found the infant, Joseph, dead in his cot. The Munich police were called, and a major investigation began. However, the crime scene had been hopelessly compromised from the start. Dozens of locals had walked through the house and bar, touching objects and disturbing evidence. The initial autopsies were performed right there in the barn. The murder weapon was identified as a mattock, a common farm tool. The family's own mattock was considered the most likely weapon, though this was never definitively proven. The victims' heads were removed and sent to Munich for further examination by clairvoyants. A bizarre turn in the investigation. Tragically, the heads were lost during the chaos of World War II. The investigation explored numerous theories and suspects. One of the primary suspects was Lorenz Schlittenbauer. He had a long-running affair with Victoria and may have been Joseph's biological father. His behavior at the crime scene was highly suspicious. He disturbed the bodies, claiming to be looking for his son. For years, Schlittenbauer was the focus of local suspicion, but no charges were ever filed against him. Another theory centered on Victoria's husband, Karl Gabriel. Though he was officially declared dead in 1914, his body was never recovered. Some speculated that he had survived the war, perhaps as a Russian deserter, and returned to find his wife with another man's child. This theory suggested a crime of passion and revenge. Investigators questioned over 100 suspects in the years following the murders. Suspects ranged from traveling vagrants and former farmhands to jealous neighbors. The large sum of money kept in the house was found untouched. This made robbery an unlikely motive, pointing towards a more personal vendetta. In 1923, the year after the murders, the entire Hinterkaifeck farmstead was demolished. The wood and materials were salvaged, erasing the physical location of the crime. All that remains today is an empty field and a small memorial shrine. The 6 victims were buried in the cemetery in Weidhofen. Their grave site is a stark reminder of the brutal and unsolved crime. The case was officially closed in 1955, with police admitting defeat. It was briefly reopened in 1986, but no new conclusions were reached. In 2007, a German police academy took on the case as a modern cold case training exercise. They utilized contemporary forensic techniques to re-examine the evidence. While they could not definitively name the killer, they did identify a prime suspect. Out of respect for the suspect's living relatives, his name was never publicly released. The mystery of Hinterkaifeck has become a dark part of German folklore. It continues to fascinate and horrify criminologists, historians, and the public. The story is a chilling testament to the darkness that can exist in the most isolated of places. The footprints in the snow leading only one way remain a potent symbol of the case. It speaks to an intruder who arrived and simply never left. The idea of a killer living alongside his victims for days is profoundly disturbing. It suggests a perpetrator with an unnerving level of calm and control. The unanswered questions hang over the case like a perpetual fog. Who had the motive to annihilate an entire family? Down to the infant? Was it a crime of passion, a personal revenge, or something else entirely? How could one person overpower 6 victims, even if taken by surprise? This has led many to believe there was more than one killer. The secrets of the Gruber family may have died with them in the barn. The incestuous relationship, the disputed parentage of Joseph, all created a volatile domestic situation. Perhaps the killer came from within this web of secrets. The silence of the neighbors, both before and after the crime, is also telling. In the small, tight-knit community, secrets were a form of currency. Truth of what happened at Hinterkaifeck is likely lost to time. The fields where the farm once stood now grow quiet crops. But the memory of the crime lingers, a ghost in the Bavarian countryside. The name Hinterkaifeck is now synonymous with Germany's most chilling unsolved mystery. The brutality of the act contrasts sharply with the pastoral setting. It serves as a reminder that horror can find you anywhere, even in the most remote and seemingly peaceful corners of the world. The final moments of the Gruber family can only be imagined. Fear and confusion in the dark barn are forever sealed in silence. The perpetrator walked away, leaving behind a scene of unimaginable carnage. They took their secrets with them, creating a legend. The case remains a puzzle with too many missing pieces. Each clue seems to lead only to more questions. The strange newspaper remains an unexplained detail. The missing keys were never found. The sounds in the attic were dismissed, but perhaps they shouldn't have been. It points to an intruder who was already in the house long before the murders. This theory suggests a terrifying intimacy between the killer and the victims. The community's fear eventually turned into a kind of grim folklore. Parents would warn their children about the ghost of Hinterkaifeck. The story became a cautionary tale about secrets and isolation. A century later, the 6 coffins represent a permanent question mark. The souls of the Grubers and their maid found no justice. Their killer lived on, perhaps nearby, watching the investigation unfold. They may have even attended the victim's funeral. This chilling possibility adds another layer to the enduring horror. The Hinterkaifeck farm is gone, but its dark history is etched into the land. It remains a silent monument to an unspeakable crime. The mystery endures, unsolved and unforgettable.